Hello, my name is Chris and today I want to talk to you about motivation. I want to talk about how we can cultivate the motivation that we need to quit smoking. How we can maintain that motivation long term to help us stay smoke free. And how some of the tips, tools and techniques that I'm about to share with you can actually be applied to making any big positive changes within our lives. Yes, what I'm about to share with you has helped me to stay away from cigarettes for over 2 years now. But I've also used these things to help me with other issues like losing weight, like changing career and going back to school, like running a marathon. So whilst I'm going to talk specifically about quitting smoking throughout this video, if you need motivation to do something else, just pretend that I'm not saying quitting smoking, I'm just saying whatever it is you need the motivation to do. A lot of us, we don't want to make big positive changes because we're bored or because we just think it might be a bit of a giggle. We want to make big positive changes because deep down within us we know that they are necessary. We are all smart enough to know that smoking is slowly killing us. And I don't say that to frighten you. If you've watched any of my videos before, you'll know that I'm not here to say you have to quit smoking right now or you will die. I don't do that. What I'm going to say is we're all smart enough to know, it's medically proven facts, that the longer we smoke, the more we increase our risks of things like cancer and lung disease and stuff like that. We all know this, we're all smart enough to know this, and smart enough to know that we are paying an absolute fortune for the privilege of doing this, of putting all this harm onto ourselves. So deep down we know that we should stop because we are doing so much damage to ourselves. And yet we don't. And we don't because it's just easier not to. It is easier to keep doing the same things over and over again than it is to actually do something different and make a change. And we tell ourselves this is going to be okay because at some point, some magical point in the future, there will be this one perfect moment. And in this perfect moment, all the stars will align, all the motivation that we ever needed will magically come to us from nowhere, from like space or something. We'll have all the skills and the tools that we need to make this change happen. And when this perfect moment happens, quitting smoking will be easier, if not just as easy, as staying smoke free. As I've gone along my journey, I've learned that there is no such thing as this one perfect moment. There is no such thing as magical motivation that just appears from nowhere. But I've also learned that we don't need for there to be. We don't need this one perfect moment. We don't need motivation to come from nowhere or for motivation to even come from anybody else. Because here's the good news, all the motivation that we already need is within us somewhere and we just have to tap into it. Yes, we can listen to motivational speakers, we can read motivational books, we can go on Pinterest and look at motivational quotes or get a coach who will say motivational things to us personally. But all those things do is trigger us to release that motivation that's already within us somewhere. Think about it. Think about the last time that you were motivated to do anything. Yes, there may have been a trigger that caused you to think, yeah, do you know what, I really want to do this. But all those feelings came from within you. Nobody took a magical potion called motivation and got it in a needle and stuck it in your arm and suddenly you were like, yes, I'm going to do this. All that motivation came from within you. And all we need to do is we need to tap into that. We tap into this motivation, and then there's nothing stopping us from quitting smoking or making whatever big positive changes we need to make. So today my friends, I'm just going to share with you 2 or 3 different techniques that I have used to tap into my own inner motivation, my own inner reserves that will help me to get through whatever I need to get through. And I hope they are as helpful for you as they have been for me. The first thing that we can do to tap into this motivation is to get clear, and I mean very, very clear on our reasons for quitting smoking. Now, it's not for me to tell you what these reasons should be. However, what I will tell you is that a few years ago, some scientists from the University of Vermont conducted this study, and they found that people were far more likely to succeed at quitting and at staying quit if their reasons for quitting were intrinsic rather than extrinsic. And for intrinsic reasons, they gave examples such as, improving health or improving general well-being, and extrinsic reasons as being things like social influence, like pressure from family and friends to quit smoking. In other words, we can say that we're far more likely to succeed when we quit smoking for reasons that benefit us, like improving our health or having more money. We're far more likely to succeed at that than we are if our only reason for quitting smoking is because our parents have asked us to, or our kids have asked us to, or our partner, or because Mr. Happy Pants next door keeps telling us that we should quit smoking. Trust me, Mr. Happy Pants next door kept telling me to quit smoking for years and I couldn't do it. That's ridiculous. We'll never talk about Mr. Happy Pants again, I promise. But you get the idea, right? It's a lot harder to quit for somebody else than it is for us. I've got Mr. Happy Pants on the brain now. I'm sorry, take a deep breath. Let's get serious about this, okay? So some reasons that are personal to us include things like, yes, improving our health, like having more money, like using quitting smoking as the first step to finding a romantic partner, because we found that girls hate us because we smell of cigarette smoke and we look terrible all the time. But for me, I found that it isn't enough just to have the reasons. Like, yes, I can get a piece of paper and I can write, I want to quit smoking because I want to be healthy, wealthy and happy. Great start. What's going to motivate me more is to have a big, bright, vivid picture in my mind of what being healthy, happy and wealthy is actually going to look like. Now, how I can do this, I can start by taking a deep breath, closing my eyes and just spending some time visualizing. So if my main reason for quitting smoking is to get healthy, I can visualize what that will look like. I can visualize my ideal self, the perfect version of me as I would want to be after I quit smoking. So if it is health, I might visualize myself, as if I'm looking in a mirror and I see myself looking back at me and I'm standing tall and proud and I'm slim or I'm muscular because I've been doing exercise, because I have more energy now. I might notice that my skin is younger, that I look younger and I look healthier than I ever did. If my main motivation for quitting smoking is money, I might see myself in the mirror looking back at me, and this ideal version of Chris that is in the mirror is wearing all these fancy ass clothes because I've now got more money to spend on a new outfit. Or it might be that I visualize myself on some kind of trip of a lifetime, like I've saved all my money from quitting smoking and I've spent it on the trip of a lifetime. Or if my motivation is to find a romantic partner, I will picture myself looking happy, holding this girl's hand, and we are happy together. Maybe she's out in the garden planting vegetables and I'm waving at her through the window, or and we're just together and we're happy. And I need to replay this over and over in my mind, and every time I do, I notice how happy this ideal version of Chris is. I notice the smile on my face. I notice how good I look and how good I feel. And I start to make this bright, vivid picture even brighter and even more vivid. I make all the colours more intense. I make all the details sharper. The image that I'm currently seeing in my mind is like this big, like as big as my head. I magnify it. I make it so that the vision of me as an ex-smoker is like looking onto a movie screen. So it's huge, like really, really big. And when I get to the peak of this, when I get to the point where this big, bright, beautiful image of me living my ideal life could not possibly get any brighter or any bigger, I just simply squeeze my middle finger and my thumb together like that. And I'll notice as I'm doing this that my body feels different. I feel good. So I squeeze my fingers together and I capture all these good feelings. And then I do it again and again, and I keep repeating this process of making myself feel good by visualizing how I'm going to look once I quit smoking, and squeezing my thumb and my middle finger together. Whew. The reason that I do this is not only because that visualization process makes me feel really, really excited about quitting smoking, but it also means that from now on, when I go through my journey and I'm struggling to get the motivation, or I feel weak, or I feel like I can't do it, I squeeze this thumb and this middle finger together, and it starts to change the way that I feel, and it takes me back to that moment when I was visualizing, and I start to visualize it again, and I start to remember, like, yeah, if I just get through this moment, then I can get to being that ideal version of Chris. I mean, obviously you won't want to get to the ideal version of Chris, you'll want to get to the ideal version of you. The second thing that we can do to help us get really, really very clear on why we are quitting smoking is to write out how our ideal day will look once we quit smoking. We've already done our ideal self. Now we bring our ideal self into our ideal day. For so many of us, smoking basically takes over our lives, our routines, our day revolves around smoking. So now it's time to think, you know what, how much better how much different will life be once we quit smoking, and how much better will that be? So we can write down all the details of what our day will be like from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to bed. So I know for me, when I did this exercise, I started with, I wake up at 7 AM and I go outside and it's a bright, beautiful, sunny morning. I take a few deep breaths and I spend my time outdoors meditating. And then I sit in the sunshine for a little bit longer and I read my book before going indoors to have breakfast. And I started my day like this in my ideal day exercise because that sounded so much better than what my routine was like as a smoker which was basically to get up, cough my lungs up for 20 minutes, have a cigarette, have some coffee, have another cigarette, and then cough all over again. Blech. Who wants that? Not me, that's it. So I started my day, how my ideal day could look now that I've quit smoking. I go through the whole day and do things like, later in the evening, I sit down to have a meal. And I'm with friends, and I enjoy every taste of this meal because smoking no longer numbs my taste buds. After the meal, I get to sit and enjoy the company of those friends that I'm with because I don't have to excuse myself to go outside and have a post-meal cigarette. We can bring aspects of the ideal self thing that we just did into this, and we can say, if our main motivation is to get healthy, we can say at 8 a.m. I go into the bathroom to shower and I look at myself in the bathroom mirror and I notice that I look younger, that my skin looks healthier, that I look more defined, that I look slimmer because I've now got the energy to exercise. If getting a romantic partner is part of the motivation, it might be that we end our ideal day in bed and we turn over and that perfect person is there and smiling at us and saying, I love you. How nice is that? I say to write this down rather than just visualize it, because this is one that we're going to carry with us. Whether we write it on a piece of paper and literally carry it around, or we type it up and email it to ourselves so that it's always there on our phone. And we're going to carry it around, and not just carry it around, but actually take it out and read it. We can read it every day. We can read it twice a day. We can particularly read it if we are struggling to get the motivation to stay away from a cigarette. If we think we might relapse, we get this thing out and we read it, and it gives us that motivation because we think, do you know what? I'm not going to smoke this cigarette because I want this life that I've written down. So I'm going to stay motivated to stay smoke-free, because the more I stay smoke-free, the closer I get to this ideal life. I'm going to stop doing that because it hurts. The more we read through this, the more it reminds us why we are on this journey. And speaking of reminders, there was another scientific study done that I read recently. Can you tell I've spent a lot of time on Google lately? There's another scientific research done by a Dr. John Hughes. And as I'm saying this, I realise that I made a small mistake in this video. Earlier I said that the other scientific research was done by scientists from the University of Vermont. That wasn't true. They were scientists from Seattle, Washington. This scientific research that I'm about to tell you was done by Dr. John Hughes, who was at the University of Vermont. And he found that people were far more likely to succeed in their quit if they had regular, small reminders of what they are doing and why they are doing it. And there are lots of ways that we can create these small, brief reminders of why we are quitting smoking and how we can do it. We can set alarms on our phone to go off. They can go off at random intervals, like every couple of hours, to say, you're doing great, keep up the no smoking thing. We can set them to go off at particular times. So if one of the times that we are always triggered to smoke is after a meal or after a particular meeting at work, we set a reminder that goes off after the meal or after the meeting that says, you don't need to smoke right now, you are on this journey to becoming healthy, happy, wealthy and all that stuff. Keep going. One of the best ways that we can use our phones is to use the wallpaper, like the background picture on the phone, change that to a picture that represents what we are working towards. So if we are quitting smoking to get healthier, we might put a picture of a nice bright, healthy, happy person there. If it's to save money, to, I don't know, buy a fancy new car, we might put a picture of the fancy new car on our phone so that it's always there, it is always a reminder. We can put post-it notes or pictures or inspirational quotes in our house, particularly in the places where we used to smoke the most. So for me, I did most of my smoking in my kitchen. So when I quit, I'd have little things in my kitchen that would remind me, like, every day we are getting healthier, every day we are getting happier. I say we, I mean me. But every day I am getting healthier and happier. All these little reminders that I can just place here and there that just give me that extra bit of motivation when I need it. If I'm feeling weak or I'm feeling tired, I'm feeling like I might relapse, here are these reminders like, Chris, stay the course, stay the distance, because good things are happening on the other side of this. And of course we can't forget about rewards. Yes, quitting smoking in and of itself is a reward. But there's no reason that we can't use more rewards to help us out along the way. At the minute, one of the things that I really need a lot of motivation for is to get through my school assignments. I shared with you before, I've gone back to school, I'm retraining to become a qualified counsellor, and we have a lot of homework to do. Like a lot of assignments that will help count towards a grade. So yesterday I finished my first draft and my first assignment. Yeah. So I gave myself this reward that now this is finished, I'm going to take the afternoon off and go and watch a movie. I've set myself another reward. Once I complete all the assignments, I'm going to buy myself a ticket to go and see a band that I like. In the meantime, I might set smaller little rewards for, like, you know, finishing the first draft of the second assignment, and so on. And we can do this with smoking too. We can say, okay, I've just done a day smoke free, so I'm going to give myself a little reward, like watching a movie or taking a bath. Now that I'm a week smoke free, I can have a reward. A month smoke free, I can have a reward. A year smoke free, I can have a super duper brilliant reward. Heck yeah. All these rewards are going to help. If the one thing that you need motivation with right now is to get back on track after a relapse or a setback in your quit smoking journey, I've just posted a little video on the Patreon account that we started a few weeks ago called Relapse Revisited, and we just talk about a few things about getting back on course after a relapse. That is patreon.com/Chris Scoyles if you want to go and check that out. Until then, that's all I've got for you. I do hope this has been helpful in some way. Please don't forget the Finding Freedom Facebook group. The link is down below, where we are all getting together and helping each other out through this quit smoking journey. For more weekly videos like this one, please do consider subscribing. Please let me know, as always, how you are getting on in the comments below, and let me know if you've got other suggestions of things that are motivating you to stay smoke free that I may have not thought about. Thanks again for watching. I will see you next week. Goodbye.